Hello, everyone, and welcome to a bonus episode of Decoding TV. I'm here today with Patrick Klepek, and we're going to discuss The Paper.
And try to get quotes. Remember the 5 W's.
Is that a gang?
No.
Patrick Klepek, it's time to discuss The Paper, the new series on Peacock that is a sequel slash reboot slash spinoff of The Office. See, it turns out that the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company was acquired by another conglomerate called Enervate, which makes paper products of all kinds, toilet paper and other paper products, and newspaper. You might as well get those synergies in. So, by the way, I like that the definition of the word enervate, according to Merriam-Webster, is lacking physical, mental, or moral vigor. So, great word choice. Anyway, so this show takes place at The Truth Teller, which is a newspaper in Toledo, Ohio. The same documentary crew from The Office coming back to document the goings-on at the Toledo Truth Teller. It's a declining newspaper that used to employ over 1,000 people, but now only has barely a couple dozen, if that. And Donald Gleason plays Ned Sampson, the new editor-in-chief who's trying to turn this newspaper around. Now, Patrick Klepek, you have worked in journalism before, so I assume you have a soft spot in your heart for a show like this. But overall, what did you think of the show? And I should point out, by the way, that although all 10 episodes are available on Peacock, Patrick Klepek has only watched 5. I watched 6. We're going to try to keep it light on the spoilers, but we might drop some plot details of stuff that happens. I don't think the plot is that important, but, just FYI, you've been warned. Klepek, your thoughts?
It seems fine. It's interesting. I watched all The Office, even as it kind of went off the rails towards the end of its run, especially after Steve Carell left. But what's interesting about The Office is that the fact that it's a paper company was sort of incidental. Like, it was actually more about being in an office. And the paper, it being a newspaper company, is not incidental.
It's extremely important. It's a very, very plot-driven show, in my opinion.
It's a very plot-driven. The mechanics of the newspaper drive a lot of what is happening and why they do what they do, which sometimes, like, The Office was more about an office, and they happen to be a paper company.
Right.
The paper, the fact that it's a newspaper company is first and foremost like what is driving a lot of the tensions and various plot threads across the episodes. And it's also very reverential to newspaper. It feels very like, in a post-truth era, in a Trump era, like the media and the truth is important. And almost none of that stuff works for me, despite having like a soft spot for, I do more.
Works in what way? Because I think you agree with it, probably, right? Like,
but I don't care. I'm here for like what is with the, the archive footage of the paper and how important it used to be, and I just don't care. And I find that to be sort of distracting from the stuff that does work, which is funny. The best parts of the paper, which I think, having watched half a season, I see enough promise to where it could become like a pretty good show, which is probably kind of maybe all you can ask from the first season of like a show like this. So I think if you like nudge if I was grading it, I'd be like, it'd be a lower grade, but like, given where shows like this usually are, like, well, it's enough that it could be interesting. So then you almost nudge it up. Every time they leave, their office is like the most interesting stuff that happens. Every time we're back in the office, I want to leave the office because this does have a pretty decent ensemble of actors. It does feel like the show is on fast forward. We're doing a lot of relationship development that normally I think would have taken place over 3 seasons, happening like a couple episodes into the show. And I think that's the show struggling with what is its own identity in like a office becoming. The Office was popular. It became more popular once it hit streaming and like its relationship with its audience sort of shifted. And I think the paper doesn't really know what it is. And I'm interested to see if it finds out more of that by the end of the season. I'm interested, as we talked, on the podcast, that it's been already renewed for a second season. But I think it's all right. I think there are far worse ways to spend your time. I think like the highs of the show are pretty high, but it mostly operates in a lower tier than that. And so like I enjoyed it, but I don't know that I'll think about it that much once I'm done with it. How about you?
I'm really struggling with this one, man. Like, I want to enjoy and appreciate the show, but I'm having a really hard time, I have to say. Because first of all, I actually believe in a lot of the stuff that the ethos of what the show is espousing of. I believe yes, there were gatekeepers back at the time that we had physical printed papers, but I honestly cannot say that the media environment is better today than it was 20 years ago. Like I don't I think at a time when we had many dozens, hundreds of well-funded local newspapers, I think we were actually in better shape back then. Yes, anyone can start a TikTok, anyone can start a blog now, but it's not as good. And I think our media environment is literally the worst it has ever been.
Yes.
Right now. So I actually support kind of this dream that the show has of, hey, what if we could actually make good journalism with everyday people? That's actually a wonderful idea. But you are absolutely correct that this is primarily a show about being a newspaper. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to care about that. And it's hard for me to care about that. And I am interested in that stuff. Right. And you and I both basically run or help to run media organizations.
Right.
And so we know what some of these challenges are. And I was fascinated at how this newspaper uses the wire service, right? That's a very obscure thing, I think, of like not a lot of people know that there's these wire services. And sometimes what a newspaper does is they'll click and drag like the wire story onto the newspaper, and they're just recycling stories from another thing. That's like I know about that, but like I didn't know that that's like I don't think that's widely understood, and it is it's interesting to get those kind of behind the scenes look at that subject. So all this is to say, I really kind of support what the show is trying to say, and having said that, I kind of agree with you that that is not a particularly interesting part of the show, and I also think really limits its appeal because I just think a lot of like we're not gonna spend a lot of time talking about what other people think about the show, like, but I just think generally not a lot of people care about this. Like I think just generally not a lot of people are interested in the inner workings of what a newspaper is.
Asked a lot of people like, do you think newspapers, the media, like holding like speaking truth to power, are those important? Yes. When I sit down to watch my like quirky like 30-minute like comedy show, do I is that relatable to like have like The Office and many comedies, like even Office like Parks and Rec, like they take there's you can get a lot out of specificity, right? Like there's universality in specificity. And I think that was part of what made Parks and Rec work. In The Office, it was specificity in like a paper company, but like everyone's worked in an office
in
or
like an office admin job, right? But I think that everyone's worked in an office admin job. Everyone knows kind of, oh, we get like people in the local government trying to make your life better. Like I think people can grok that, but working at a paper, like I just don't think it's the same level of
it's specific. Right? There's no universality in its specificity. It's just specificity. It is just this is how a paper operates, which is why the best stuff that happens in the show, IMO, is when a lot of that is dropped away, right? Like when it's a little espionage game with the paper dealing with like this punk high school blogger, when it's like the two main Ned and Mayor, like kind of the two co-leads of the show, going in pretending to like be a couple buying a mattress. Like, yes, that is, I think that's the show at its best. It's using the constructs of a newspaper to put its characters in unique situations, but it's not beholden to like the core concept. You know what I mean? Like it's it's fun to get them out doing something weird. That's fun. Like with the paper at its best is using the conceit of like, you have to go investigate a story, go do that. And then funny things can happen. That's great. Like you can do a lot with that. But once we're like talking about the budget of the paper and what we're spending on original stories versus wire content, who can relate to that? Like, that's not, and again, I think that's because
you and I can relate to that, and even we don't care.
I don't want it. Then give me a serious drama about running a news, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want that in my comedy. Like, I would want that in a drama, but like here, I don't know what that is serving other than the paper having this. It doesn't quite get finger waggy, but like it walks right up to the line to be like, you also, audience, like, you should care about this too, in a way that is kind of unappealing. Like, it's just, and also it's just uninteresting. Like, I don't think it does very much with indulging in the specifics of running a paper. I don't know that it adds much to the show in what I have seen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's just the premise. We haven't even got to the other elements yet. So I gotta say, I think Sabrina Impacciatore is a very talented actress. Like, I think
get to the butt.
I think she has a lot of skills. Nothing about this performance works for me at all. It is so over the top compared to everyone else. Everyone else in the show is like a very, very grounded kind of portrayal of what that person would be.
She's a cartoon character.
She's a cartoon character. And it is like trying to be a female Michael Scott. But in my opinion, Steve Carell is a generational talent. Like, he is ridiculously good and capture that character in a way that only he could. And they're trying to make like a female version of that character, but they haven't quite got the balance of zany elements correct. It's just not right. It's wrong. Every time she's on screen, I'm just like, this is not working. It's not working. And I think it is a tragic miscalculation, because in my opinion, if she was not on the show, I think I would enjoy the show. I'm going to say 20 to 30% more, because every time she's on, I'm just so distracted. Like, oh, this is such a mannered, desperate attempt to kind of recreate the Michael Scott magic, or kind of like a combo between Michael Scott and maybe Dwight Schrute, you know? And it just does not work at all. Patrick Klepek, what do you think?
No, I'm with you. And I don't think it is the actor's fault whatsoever. I think the actor is doing exactly what they're being asked to do in the show. And the show fails them, because you're right. Like, there are, like, it just doesn't work. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It doesn't fit within the more grounded world of the show. She would have been like a very fine guest character, right? Like something that floats in and out of the show. But she's core. Like, she's part of the core cast.
Yeah.
You are seeing her all the time in every episode, and it just does not work at all.
It's brutal, man. It's like, oh man, this is such a miscalculation, and it almost single-handedly torpedoes the show for me. Like, not quite, but it's really hard to enjoy the show. And I get that they need somebody for Ned to bounce off of, but like, she is so over the top. She's like almost beyond Dwight Schrute levels, right? She's almost beyond Michael Scott levels in terms of how wacky she is. Oh,
well, everyone else is so like much of the cast in the paper is pretty subdued, right?
Yes.
Like if we're on a scale of 1 to 10, everyone's operating no more than a 5. Now, sometimes they go past that in certain situations, and it's funny to watch otherwise mild-mannered people do something really goofy. But she's always operating at a 10, and it feels like at some point in conceiving of the show, like, well, like, we need something here, and it's all channeled into her, as opposed to being distributed to the rest of the cast. And maybe their thought was, well, you couldn't, like, running a paper company, like, you can have a bunch of cartoonish buffoons, because how hard could it be to do this job, right? Like, it's sort of a menial sort of job that a lot of them are doing on that show. So you can kind of plug in any sort of weird character, and you can buy that, okay, like, everyone's worked in an office and been with, like, the weird guy. Like, somehow he still has a job. Like, somehow he makes it work. Everything about what she does, and technically what she's doing, like, other than like the blatant, like, sort of like HR violations that like she would just be fired for in a normal office environment, you just don't buy her in the world. Like, she doesn't fit the fantasy, like the world building they've done for this paper. And I think that's where it's just frustrating to watch, because like, she's putting in a lot of effort. Like this character could work in a different show, but it doesn't work in this one.
Yeah, I agree. So then this show tries to create some Jim and Pam dynamics, right? I think there's a kind of budding romance between the editor-in-chief, Ned Sampson, and Mare, who's played by Chelsea Fry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also kind of a separate romance between Detrick and Nicole, I believe are their names, right?
Yeah.
Do either of these work for you, Patrick Klepek? Like, to me, it feels like they're just trying to capture that Jim Pam magic, and they're not really succeeding, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, but
it's very sweaty. Feels very. I can feel the flop sweat.
Well, the show in general feels very sweaty, right? Like, and it's going to, like, Parks and Rec, you know, has a lot of the same dynamics of The Office, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to capture The Office. The paper is trying to capture like, you can feel like the direct, and that's putting aside, you can easily take out all the universe connecting stuff that is here, which isn't, I'll give them credit to like being pretty, they could be doing more, and like the little Easter eggs they do drop are mostly just Easter eggs. But part of what made Jim and Pam work is that it was a will they or won't they developed over a very, very long time. And here, in 5 episodes that I've watched, like, oh, it's already clear they're going to kiss. It's just a question of like, is that going to happen in the final episode of the season?
Right.
And the tension of the Jim and Pam was that it was using the format of television to really like stretch that tension out with the audience. And like, that's the joy of television, having so many episodes that you're sitting through where like this little thing just sort of creeps along incidentally as a result of whatever the wacky plot is that day. But here, it's just on a speed run. It's like, it's within a couple of episodes, like, oh, they're setting them up to be involved with one another. And it makes sense. Office relationships do happen. It would make sense for characters in the show to like explore romantic relationships, but not this fast. And I think I can't tell if that's also sweaty, which is, if you're making a show like this in 2025, like you have to speed run this stuff a little bit.
Right.
You
won't get 9 seasons necessarily. Right. So,
right. But when did they know they were getting a second season? You know what I mean? Right. Like it's easy for me to imagine when they greenlit the paper. It's like, hey, by the way, you are greenlit for a second season. Write the first season as though you have a second season and like make it an arc. I don't know if that was true or not, because in the season, it does not feel like they're pacing it out to be multi-season. It feels like they're pacing it out like, well, maybe we've got one shot. And so it's just like, sweaty is a good word for it. Has a nervous energy to it that is just kind of unappealing.
Yeah. To me, it feels like, oh, hey, we gotta let's do the dance to make it like Jim and Pam again, and then the dance is not really succeeding. Because I just feel like the Jim and Pam thing is lightning in a bottle. Like, in my opinion, it's lightning in a bottle. Yes, I know the original Office had the similar relationship, but that was only, the original Office was like, what, 15 episodes or whatever? Like, they dragged out the Jim and Pam thing over years and years and years, and had like multiple changes in the relationship dynamic. At one point, Jim had a whole different romantic relationship. You know, like, there's a whole like thing that they did, and that is like very difficult to replicate, and they're like trying to replicate it, and I just don't think it really works.
Also, you want the audience to root for it, right?
Yeah.
Like, the Jim and Pam thing is the audience salivating on the other side, invested with like 2 dolls going, kiss, kiss, please. And there's a fantasy element too, right? Like, it's you know, Jim and Pam's whole dance across that show is a really fun fantasy for the audience to think about, like, oh, like, what if you found like your partner in this way, and then had, you know, there's so many elements that go into what made that work, and none of that's present here. It's just a man and a woman who just happen to be around each other for a handful of hours, and then immediately we're supposed to buy. And
you're another attractive person that's physically in the same proximity as me. So like, of course,
I think that's a lot of it. And I think, again, I like this cast generally. I don't think the failures or the weaknesses of this season come down to like that they don't work. I really think it's like the writing here feels sweaty and rushed and chasing a dragon, really. And I'm desperately hoping that like season 2, like, can we just gear it back? You know, like let these characters breathe a little bit. And I just don't think that happens often enough on the show.
Speaking of the cast, I am curious what you think about this opinion by Sam Adams over at Slate.com. I don't know if you saw this. The paper is a puff piece. The follow-up to The Office forgets what made the original show work. What made the original show work, you might ask? Here's what Sam Adams had to say about it. What made The Office stand out was its cast. Their faces were unfamiliar. Apart from The Daily Show correspondent Steve Carell, the actors were virtually unknown. But more than that, they were different. The standard pitch for a TV sitcom was to make a cast look like a friend group you were dying to join. So funny and charismatic, you could come back from an evening with them and feel as if you'd had the night of your life, even if you never got the chance to speak. But the cast of The Office looked like people you already knew, the kind of people you watch TV to avoid having to spend time with. They just looked normal, end quote. And, you know, he is right that there's a lot of people like Brian Baumgartner, who played Kevin Malone, and Phyllis, who was like, I think, related to somebody who was involved. She was working as an associate to The Office casting director before the show writers decided to create the role of the soft-spoken but strong-willed Phyllis for her, end quote. These are like, they seem like normal people because some of them were normal people, just random normal people.
Yeah.
Right? Not people who had huge acting careers. And the problem with the paper, according to this article at Slate, is they are too hot, Patrick Klepek. These people are too attractive. They look like models. What do you think?
I think there's something to that.
Yeah.
And I think, but also to that might be, can you do The Office with a bunch of with a bunch of normal people? You know what I mean? Like, could you do that again? Was that a moment in time? Was that?
I can't believe he's Ned Sampson, the mild-mannered editor-in-chief. I've already seen him as General Hux. Right?
General Hux is not on screen. I'm wondering, where is General Hux?
But like literally in The Office, like we basically, other than Steve Carell, we knew none of those people pretty much.
And even Steve Carell was not Steve Carell, right? Like,
right.
Steve, like, the Office starts.
The Office made him meet Steve Carell.
Well,
right?
The Office combined with 40-Year-Old Virgin happens early in The Office's run, and Steve Carell was like a noted correspondent on The Daily Show, but that's not, you know, the movie star.
You and me watched hundreds of hours of Steve Carell, but most people did not. Yeah.
Right, like Anchorman happens during like there's a reason he leaves, because like he becomes too big for the show essentially. And I think that is a notable. I don't think it's the show's biggest problem. Like if you swapped out all these actors and put in more normal people, more sort of like average kind of Joe sort of thing. Like, I don't think the show is magically better, but I think it indicates perhaps a misunderstanding of part of the alchemy that was the Office. And so I think it's indicative of a broader problem with approach to the paper, more than if we swapped all that out, suddenly it becomes a better show.
Fair enough. And who knows, maybe they couldn't have got the show greenlit if it was total unknown.
Well, that's also my thought. But even the people they did cast, like, I know you and I know who the actor who played General Hux is, but I don't think most these are still. I think the problem here is actually level of attractiveness more than it is.
Right. I agree.
Like renown, right? Yeah. Like everyone on here looks like. Well, of course, they're all going to have sex with each other. You didn't watch The Office. That's part of what made Jim and Pam stick out, right? Like they were the sexy characters.
Kind of normal looking. Yeah.
They were like the hottest characters on the show, but neither of them.
The average people.
Of the average people.
Right,
which is part of what made them stand out in the cast, too.
Yeah.
So.
But here you have Chelsea Fry, who literally is like a magazine cover model level of attractiveness, basically.
What are you doing? It's like, why are you at this paper?
Like, and I like that they try to like dress her down, like they try to like make her look less attractive than she actually is. But really, you know, she's extremely attractive person. And
yes,
and also I would say the same goes for Ramona Young and Melvin Gregg, who plays Detrick as well. You know, like, these are all like very attractive humans, and it's hard to imagine that they're not getting jobs as influencers and so on instead of at a struggling paper. So,
well, it's especially when you're trying to portray, like, why would people be here? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
like, why would they be here? Like, and part of casting kind of average looking people in a show like The Office is because you can imagine
they have
them
no other
here.
options, Patrick.
Okay,
they can either work in admin or be
right.
podcasters. There's no in between of those things. Anyway, go ahead.
Right, but there's a certain privilege that comes with, you know,
Yes.
attractiveness. Like, we know that in society, and
Yes.
It's at least with Ned, you know, with Gleason's character, like, yes, like, very classically, like, attractive looking guy, but the show also spends the most time fleshing out why would he be here, and I buy his geeky,
Right.
I love paper energy, like that works for me. And in a different show, I think that would be like really cool. Instead, here it just proves to be like deeply distracting from being an entertaining show.
Yeah, because I think you and I are both reacting pretty poorly to the earnestness of the show, right?
Yeah, and I love a
why do we hate the earnestness of the show? Like, what do you think is behind that? What's going on there, do you think? I guess probably let me try to put a voice to it, is that probably we think that the media industry is so deeply troubled that if you are going to address it, it deserves a more serious exploration than what's here. Maybe that's part of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that is part of it. Because I think that was, you know, kind of my reaction of like, well, if you're going to do this, then make it a drama. Like, running a small newspaper that
make it a documentary, you know?
Yeah, something like but ultimately I just don't think it does very much with it. In fact, I think it's limiting to the show's like scenarios and potential is to lean again, really, like, once they did the like archival footage, I'm just like banging my head into a table. Like, what are we doing?
I was impressed with the production quality. It's like they went and they hired 100 extra, you know, like,
yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks good. And
I watched that show. I can't watch that show of like running that paper. I'd watch that one.
They are a little bit funny, you know. They're kind of amusing, but yeah, it is a very, very earnest show. So like, that is kind of a thing about it that you will need to deal with if you know, if you want to try and enjoy the show. So anyway, any other thoughts on the paper season 1?
I guess the last thing I would say is I'm not sure what Oscar Nunez is doing here.
Yeah.
They came up with a decent justification for like everyone else didn't want to move. He was fine being an accountant.
Right.
And like, okay, fine, whatever. I don't really care about the rationalization too, but like, at least in the 5 episodes I've seen, he is mostly there to be annoyed at the camera crew.
Yeah.
And it's just like the best material he's given is when like his little interest in like building was like a Sudoku puzzle, when he there's a whole like going to a high school to cover like the retirement of a teacher there, and like him reviewing the play and like wanting to just like blast it as being awful. Like, that's fun, but he's just not given very much material. It's like, if you're going to bring back like one of the most notable characters from the show, only bring back one of them, like, give the guy something to do.
My guess is, you know, we haven't seen the whole season. We've seen most of it at this point, but my guess is his arc is going to be like, he starts off hating the documentary crew, and my guess is his arc is going to be related to warming up to the documentary crew, right? Who I am curious to what degree the documentary crew will become characters as they did in the actual show The Office, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's also like a kind of open question for me. So I think we've spent more time criticizing the show than praising it. Like, I would describe the show as fairly inoffensive. You know, I don't laugh very much when I watch the show. You know, like I
did really like the episode where they go to the high school. Like, that was the strongest of the episodes that I watched. I think it was the 4th one. And it's what actually got me to click play on the 5th one. I was like, oh, maybe the show is hitting a stride. I do like was it Chelsea Fry? I think you said how you pronounce her name. Like Mare, like she's the character I like the most in the show. Like she's really funny and interesting, and I think her character has a lot of potential. Like if they're able to tease it out, I'm far less interested in basically anyone else like on the show. Like it's not really their acting. You're not given much to grasp onto with them.
But you know, I think that comes over time, as it did with The Office.
Right.
It feels like a weird. I mean, again, this is true of Parks and Rec and The Office as well, right? But like, it feels like a weird mix of characters who are really grounded. Like Mare as a character feels like a really, really super grounded. Like you can imagine that, like what the real life person, other than the fact that she's like a model, like you can imagine kind of a character with that history and so on.
I buy her character,
right?
Like,
exactly.
completely.
And then there's some characters that are like very silly, and it just makes for like an unwieldy mix, kind of. I think. So anyway. Yeah, I don't know. So we talked in the main episode about how you're going to finish the season because they're going to make a second season. Is that kind of where you're at with this?
I think so. I'm always looking for inoffensive things to watch, like when I eat my lunch. And well, actually, I don't know. I think you're going to make me watch an offensive thing on what was it?
I'm not making you do shit, then. I'm not making you do anything.
But then you told me about it, and now I have to do it.
Yes.
But again, it's like weird to say. There are worse ways to spend your time when we live in a media environment in which there are so many things.
Yeah.
But if you yourself are like chasing the dragon of shows like this, of which there are not many, right? Like, they just don't make shows like this anymore, largely for like weird economic reasons, more than I think that people wouldn't watch them. It's just sort of like a lot of the shift that has happened in like the streaming culture has sort of ended up killing the comedy. Which is true in comedy struggles in theater as well. Like this shift in production and consumption has really altered what it means to make comedy on the big and small screen. Again, like it's not bad. Like if you like shows like this, I think you'll have like a pleasant enough time. But I don't think you'll come out of it going, well, they're on to another one. Like it's hard for me to imagine an arc in which the paper achieves the like incredible highs of The Office, Parks and Rec, and other shows of its ilk. But I do think it has a chance at being like a pretty good hang. And if you're just looking for a hang show, like it's fine.
I think that's right. You know, I posted on Threads saying I wasn't enjoying the show very much, and I got a lot of people saying, hey, The Office season 1 sucked. Parks and Recreation season 1 sucked. And it's like, okay, that's actually true. And maybe a show like this really does need time to find its voice. And I hope it gets that chance to. Because I do think season 1 so far is pretty rough. Not terrible, but not great. And maybe it has a chance to be great. And time will tell. Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.